Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Before Steffy Forrester and Eric Forrester assist him with a fresh takedown scheme, Hope Logan will infuriate Ridge Forrester, according to Tuesday, February 18th spoilers. Hope just saw Carter Walton and Ridge in an emotional embrace at Forrester Creations, but it appears like she will destroy the scene on Tuesday's B&B episode. Hope might make that very evident and enrage Ridge since she believes that Ridge is attempting to exploit Carter's kindness. If Ridge uses derogatory language once more, Carter might feel compelled to stand up for Hope. Ridge will be more committed than ever to restoring Forrester power at his family's business by the time he leaves. Steffy, Eric, and Ridge will be brainstorming ideas for a fresh takedown plot during their upcoming strategy session. Ridge might suggest that they concentrate on acting dirty since Justin Barber, Aaron D. Spears, isn't uncovering any legal loopholes. Ridge might believe they need to step it up if they really want to take Hope and Carter down as soon as possible, but Steffy's plan with Daphne Rose, Muriel Hilaire, still has a chance of succeeding. Steffy, Ridge, and Eric will all decide to go to any lengths to ensure that the Forresters ultimately triumph. Hope will attempt to remind Carter of all the reasons he originally wanted to do this, as he has been dealing with guilt over the takeover. Hope will be shocked by Carter's confession in the upcoming episodes. Does Daphne's flirting or even her attempt to win him back to the Forresters' cause have anything to do with that? If that's the case, Hope might begin to realize that Daphne is actually working for Steffy. According to spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Hope will soon receive information on some very important news, therefore we'll provide you with more predictions about all the possible outcomes. Hope's war, Eric's LLC fix-it, and Carter's stubbornness. Here are spoilers for Tuesday, February 18th, 2025's episode of The Bold and the Beautiful. Fans may anticipate Carter Walton digging his heels in with Ridge Forrester in tomorrow's episode. Later, Ridge discusses future plans for Forrester Creations with Steffy Forrester Finnegan and Eric Forrester. Let's discuss what will happen in the upcoming episode of the CBS soap opera as you continue reading. The reconnection of Carter Walton. Fans will discover if Carter and Ridge can work things out in tomorrow's episode. Don't expect things to settle down, even though Hope Logan, Annika Noel, walked in on Ridge and Carter sharing an embrace. Don't forget to check out our B&B spoilers for next week, here. It appears from the remaining week's spoilers that Carter will not return the business to the Forrester family. Hope Logan's war. Carter feels bad, but he's too obstinate to let up just yet. Carter will put his game face back on when Ridge entered while he was having a bad day. Read more, discover what transpired on B&B yesterday. Hope will likely tell Carter that the Forresters are the ones taking advantage of him, not her. Hope has heard Brooke Logan say that she's making this into a conflict. It appears that the LLC plan will only intensify. Heartbreak for Ridge Forrester. According to Tuesday, February 18th teasers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Ridge will return home following his conversation with Carter. Ridge would say that even though the corporation won, Carter is undoubtedly unhappy. Ridge may also disclose to his family the connection between Hope and Carter's wounded hand. Fix It by Eric Forrester. Ridge will attempt to plan as he keeps everyone informed. Yes, Steffy is working on a strategy with Daphne Rose, Muriel Hilaire. Ridge, Eric, and Steffy will consider their options in the interim. Steffy mentioned that by persuading Hope to abandon this LLC plan, Brooke can demonstrate her support for them. Although Carter's name appears on those documents, Hope is free to leave at any moment. Carter being tricked into signing manager papers, as he did with Ridge and Steffy, is the only way I can see this happening. The only question is who will actually make it happen. Another instance is when John Finnegan discovers he is Luna Nozawa's bio dad. Luna will also meet Christian Weissman's character, Remy Price, later this week. Standing side by side in the darkened hallway of Forrester Creations, Carter and Ridge's faces were marked with a mix of hurt, remorse, and a need for closure that had long been hidden beneath layers of pride and betrayals. In a never-ending battle for dominance and respect inside the Forrester empire, their paths had diverged and intersected for years. However, something in the tense mood today suggested a time of tenuous reconciliation, an opportunity to forgive, if briefly, past hurts. As recollections of acrimonious disputes, covert encounters, and unsaid words flooded their brains, the tension in the air was almost tangible. Reaching this point, where the barriers erected by years of hurt started to fall apart under the weight of a shared past and the silent realization of what they had both gone through, had required every last bit of resolve. A slow transition had taken place as their dialogue had progressed, a sharp exchange of charges and apologies, of defiance and grief. An implicit recognition that they were, in many respects, two sides of the same coin was replacing the rage and pride that had driven their arguments over the years. And in that crucial time, when they were at a loss for words, a simple gesture like an embrace allowed them to express their feelings. Carter reached out to Ridge slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, a hesitant gesture of peace that conveyed his tiredness from seemingly never-ending struggles, and his understanding that cooperation could be the only path forward. Ridge paused, staring into Carter's eyes, trying to find the genuineness beneath the protective pride. Each of them could see the unadulterated fragility beneath their stony exteriors in that wordless interaction. Ridge moved forward and took the embrace without saying anything, and as their arms around one another, it seemed as though time had stopped for a moment. The hug was a bittersweet recognition of their common suffering and the tremendous pressure that the world of high-stakes corporate drama and personal betrayal had placed on them, rather than a show of defeat. The release of bottled-up annoyance and the assurance that, in spite of everything, there could still be a chance to mend what had been damaged were cathartic moments. The burden of the past appeared to lessen, if only slightly, as they stood there, ensnared in a silent hug that said far more than words could ever express. Ridge's rough features, which are frequently marked with defiance and resolve, had a hint of melancholy, and Carter's normally expressionless countenance softened. Both men had been pushed to the edge by circumstances beyond their control, and there was forgiveness in that embrace, if tentative and brittle. It seemed as though their common past of power struggles, betrayals, and missed opportunities had now culminated, enabling them to temporarily set aside their disagreements and accept the suffering that had characterized their paths. In the midst of the unrelenting maelstrom of Forrester drama, the harsh boundaries of conflict were briefly obscured by the warmth of a human connection that neither of them had expected. As she watched this unexpected spectacle, Hope stood silently in the shadow of a partially open door across the hall, her heart racing with a flurry of emotions. This incident was both shocking and enlightening for Hope, who had long been caught in the crossfire of the power struggles within the Forrester family. She had always viewed Carter as the unwavering protector of the family's interests, a man whose devotion, despite occasional doubts, had always offered some measure of security in a chaotic world. In contrast, Ridge was a complex combination of charm, resistance, and an erratic nature that both enthralled and tortured her. Her spirit shook when she witnessed the reunion of these two titans of the Forrester family in such a personal act. Hope's thoughts were filled with doubts and mixed feelings. Was this a real move in the right direction or just a tactical break in a continuing struggle for dominance? Was this sudden show of solidarity the beginning of a new chapter in the family's history, or was it just the quiet before a bigger storm? She pondered the gravity of the situation, her eyes glimmering with unshed tears. She was reminded of her own battles with loyalty, treachery, and the harsh realities of living under the shadow of the Forrester empire when she saw Carter and Ridge, who had formerly been fierce rivals engaged in a bitter feud, sharing a vulnerable moment. Hope's heart bled with grief and a cautious hope that maybe there would be hope for the whole family if these two guys could somehow work out their differences. However, their relationships were so complicated that years of distrust and animosity could not be removed by a sincere embrace. The sight of this reunion served as a sad reminder to Hope, who had grown up seeing the consequences of every quarrel and harsh disagreement, that sometimes forgiveness and the ability to let go of past grievances are both necessary for healing. Carter and Ridge began to break apart as the hug gradually relaxed, their faces still displaying the emotional fallout from the encounter. With a solemn vow that they would find a way to go forward in spite of everything, even if it meant making painful concessions and facing unpleasant realities, Carter's eyes finally locked with Ridge's. Ridge sighed deeply and gave an almost imperceptible nod, a move that revealed the inner struggles he faced every day. Even though their reconciliation was fleeting, it demonstrated that when pride and rage were put aside in favor of understanding, even the most severe wounds might start to mend. The tone in the corridor changed in the moments that followed. There was now a hint of hope that the never-ending cycle of treachery and retaliation may finally be broken in the air, which was thick with the smell of tension and the echoes of unsolved disputes. Standing in the background, Hope experienced a mixture of comfort and anxiety. Every new development posed a challenge to the fragile equilibrium that had long governed their lives, as the delicate power dynamics within Forrester Creations and the larger family dynamics were in a state of change. The embrace marked a turning point for Carter and Ridge, one that could potentially lead to a new partnership or, at the least, a short-term truce that would enable them to face the challenges ahead together. There were many obstacles to overcome, including long-standing rivalries, betrayals, and the constant threat of outside forces looking to take advantage of any weakness in the family. Nevertheless, both men realized in that little moment of solidarity that their common past was too important to abandon to resentment and loneliness. They realized that although the path to stability and atonement would be a long and difficult one, even the most shattered legacies might eventually be repaired by the strength of a restored union. Hope, who has always watched these epic dramas unfold and occasionally reluctantly participated, felt her own resolve solidify. She was moved to reevaluate her own place in the complex web of loyalty and family when she saw Carter and Ridge, two individuals whose deeds had frequently determined the destiny of countless others, uniting in true human connection. She pondered whether she may be able to move past her own wounds by accepting the prospect of reconciliation as opposed to ongoing hostility. The knowledge that even the most ingrained animosities might be vanquished if the determination to change was strong enough rekindled the optimism that had previously flared dimly within her. Fans and insiders alike were filled with a mixture of adoration, shock, and cautious optimism as rumors of the hug circulated through the hallways of Forrester Creations and beyond in the days that followed. The incident came to represent the tenuous ceasefire that would eventually bring about a new age of collaboration, one in which the long-standing animosities between Carter and Ridge might finally give way to a common future vision. It was an instance that perfectly captured the spirit of Bold and the Beautiful, whereby individual suffering, career aspirations, and the unrelenting quest for love and legacy all come together in ways that are as tragic as they are unpredictable. But despite all of its potential, there was some doubt about the reunion. The scars of the past did not go away quickly, and Carter and Ridge were both aware that more than one gesture would be needed to achieve long-term harmony. It would require openness, flexibility, and a readiness to face the harsh realities that had kept them apart for so long. Even though the embrace was a potent representation of that potential, it was only the start of what would surely be a protracted and difficult path toward recovery and atonement. The difficulties that awaited them, whether they were internal strife, outside forces, or the constant threat of treachery, served as a reminder that in the world of Forrester drama, unity was both ephemeral and valuable. Carter and Ridge each went back to their separate responsibilities as the last remnants of that crucial moment vanished into the distance, both of them burdened yet encouraged by the realization that change was possible. For Hope, the image was a reminder that the human heart still has an incredible capacity for forgiveness, resiliency, and regeneration, even in a society full of power conflicts and broken promises. Even though the future was uncertain, there was a flicker of optimism in that shared hug that perhaps, just possibly, the darkness that had long surrounded their lives might eventually give way to a more promising and peaceful future. Ultimately, that one moment, an embrace that conveyed both the grief of the past and the promise of the future, acted as a trigger for transformation, a watershed that would affect everyone at Forrester Creations. It served as a reminder that when the bravery to let go of pride and embrace vulnerability takes precedence, even the most acrimonious disputes can be resolved. A fragile yet powerful symbol of optimism, solidarity, and the human spirit's unwavering resilience in the face of hardship, the promise of reconciliation lingered in the air as the sun rose on a new day. Carter and Ridge's tearful hug on that fateful afternoon left everyone at Forrester Creations reeling, and none more so than Hope, whose heart skipped a beat as she witnessed a moment that seemed to rewrite years of bitter rivalry into a single, emotional act of reconciliation. For decades, Carter had been the stoic, unwavering guardian of the company's legal integrity, a man whose calculated demeanor and commitment to upholding the Forrester legacy had earned him both respect and criticism. While Ridge, with his charm and relentless passion, had long been a symbol of the Forrester spirit, rebellious yet deeply loyal, both men having navigated a labyrinth of personal betrayals, professional power struggles, and the relentless scrutiny of a public that expected nothing less than perfection from its icons. Yet, on that day, as the tension in the hallways of Forrester Creations reached a fever pitch and the atmosphere was thick with unspoken resentments and hopes for a better future, the collision of two seemingly irreconcilable forces resulted in an unexpected moment of vulnerability that transcended years of conflict, a moment that began when a heated confrontation over a recent boardroom debacle led to a pause in the verbal sparring, and in that fragile silence, Carter's eyes met Ridge's across the room, conveying a depth of regret and understanding that no words could capture. It was as if the weight of countless sleepless nights, of battles fought in the corridors of power and in the quiet moments of introspection, had finally found expression in a simple gesture, a tentative, tearful hug that started with a hesitant reach and slowly enveloped both men in an embrace that spoke of forgiveness, of shared pain, and of a mutual desire to move beyond the endless cycle of rivalry and suspicion that had defined their relationship for so long. As they held each other, the world around them seemed to momentarily blur, and Hope, who had been standing just a few paces away, felt a jolt of shock ripple through her, her eyes widening as she struggled to comprehend what she was witnessing. This was not the aggressive confrontation she had anticipated, nor the calculated power play that had become the norm. Instead, it was a raw, unguarded moment of human connection, one that revealed the true cost of years spent at war with one another. For Carter, the embrace was both an apology and a plea for understanding, a silent admission that the endless pursuit of control and perfection had left him weary, and that perhaps the only way forward was to acknowledge the common ground they shared in their dedication to the Forrester legacy, despite the personal differences that had once driven a wedge between them. For Ridge, the hug was an act of catharsis, a release of pent-up emotions that had built up over countless betrayals, missed opportunities for reconciliation, and the overwhelming pressure of maintaining his reputation as both a scion of the Forrester dynasty and a man of unyielding passion. Together, in that tearful moment, they shed not only the physical barrier of pride but also the emotional armor that had kept them locked in perpetual conflict. The significance of the hug was not lost on those who witnessed it, especially on Hope, who had long been caught in the crossfire of their disputes, her own feelings of abandonment and longing for stability making her acutely sensitive to the undercurrents of change that such a gesture signified. As the embrace gradually loosened, both Carter and Ridge stepped back, their faces glistening with tears and expressions etched with a mixture of relief and sorrow, and for a fleeting second, it seemed as though the relentless storm of Forrester drama might give way to a calm that allowed for healing. Hope's reaction was immediate and visceral, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt a surge of conflicting emotions, from shock and disbelief to a cautious hope that perhaps this unexpected reconciliation could pave the way for a more united future, one where the bitter divisions of the past might be set aside in favor of a collaborative vision that honored the legacy of the family without sacrificing personal integrity. In that charged atmosphere, every silent glance and every tear that fell seemed to speak volumes, encapsulating years of hurt, regret, and the possibility of redemption. And as the news of the hug began to ripple through the corridors of Forrester Creations, conversations erupted among staff and family members alike, some lauding the moment as a turning point, others questioning whether such vulnerability could truly mend the deep-seated wounds that had defined the Forrester saga. Yet, despite the uncertainty and the ever-present specter of future conflicts, the tearful hug between Carter and Ridge marked a milestone in their long, tumultuous journey, a reminder that even in a world where power, pride, and legacy often reign supreme, the human capacity for forgiveness and connection can sometimes shine through in the most unexpected ways. As Hope stood there, processing the scene before her, she realized that the complexities of their relationships were far from resolved. But perhaps this was the first step toward a new chapter, one in which the hard lessons of the past could finally be laid to rest in favor of a future built on mutual respect and shared responsibility. For in the end, the embrace was more than just a physical act, it was a symbolic unburdening of years of conflict, a gesture that carried with it the promise that even the deepest of divides could, with time and effort, be bridged by the simple, profound act of human connection, leaving hope to wonder if this was truly the dawn of a new era for the Forrester empire, where even the most unlikely alliances could emerge from the shadows of bitterness, and where the tears shed in that one unforgettable moment might serve as the seeds for a future defined not by endless rivalry, but by the strength of unity and the enduring power of forgiveness.